Hello friends, welcome again. We'll continue with the discussion on chapter respiration. Two lectures we discuss up till now. First lecture we discuss what is respiration and human respiratory system. Last lecture we discuss mechanism of respiration. In mechanism we said the respiration complete process is completed in four different steps. First step is called breathing. Second step external respiration, third step internal respiration, and last step cellular respiration. We already discussed taking air inside the lungs, inspiration, giving air outside the lung, expiration. Together that will form first step for breathing. Second step where exchange of gases will take place at the level of lungs, maybe from alveolar air to the capillary around blood capillary around the alveolus, and that will be the second type. We call it as external respiration. Third and most important, that is internal respiration, that will include transport of gases. The gases will be carried from level of lungs to up to each and every cell, and now the exchange will take place at a level of a cell. The oxygen from the blood will be given inside the cell, and carbon dioxide which is produced inside the cell, that will be given into the blood. This will complete third step, internal respiration. And then actually whatever this oxygen is taken, that will be utilized inside the cell for breakdown of food to release the energy. The step is cellular respiration. That's it. Here we complete mechanism of respiration. Remaining point related with respiration we want to study in this lecture. First one in the series is the regulation of breathing. Again, the curiosity question must have raised in your mind. Normally the respiration or breathing keep on happening. Sometimes when we start running, the breathing rate increases. Now from where this control come? And here we'll discuss the regulation of breathing. Regulation is under dual or two control. We have nervous control and chemical control. We'll have a separate chapter, control coordination, where we are going to discuss in detail about nervous and chemical control coordination. But remember, even respiration is under control of nervous coordination, means under control of nervous system. And when we say chemical coordination, it is with the help of certain chemical we call hormone. They are secreted by endocrine glands in the body. And again, respiration is under control of both nervous as well as chemical control. Now normal breathing rate, that you all know, is an involuntary process, keep on happening automatically. And the human adult person breathe for 12 times per minute. This complete one breath. And like that we'll have a 12 times breathe that happen per minute. While newborn baby will have little faster breathing rate, that is 44 times per minute. So if you could have visited hospital, so many machines are joined to the body. One of the machine where we have a plug to the finger, and the one which will keep on showing respiration rate in that meter. Remember, the steady rate of control is controlled by the two center in the body. These are called respiratory center. Number one is called pons and number two is called medulla. These are parts of the brain. Number one, pons varolii, and second one is medulla oblongata. Actually, this center will have three groups. Number one, dorsal group of a neuron. Dorsal group of a neuron, and the dorsal group of a neuron is present in medulla, the one which is concerned with inspiratory center. We already discussed inspiration. Second one is ventral lateral group of a neuron, the one which is present again in the medulla, and the one which will control inspiration and expiratory center, or inspiration and expiration. Third one, that is called pneumotactic center, and that is present in pons, so pons varolii, and the one which will limit respiration, that will slow the wave sleep and rapid eye movement sleep. These are the things controlled by pneumotactic center. So we'll have a total three groups of a neuron present in medulla and pons, that will control steady rate of respiration. Then we'll discuss with the help of this diagram how these centers, where these centers are what they are connected with the thoracic cavity, and how they basically bring about breathing or inspiration and expiration. These are the two parts. This is cerebrum that we are going to discuss again. This is cerebellum, but important part, this is pons. This is medulla. Continuation is spinal cord. But a nerve will start from here, that is called vagus nerve, and that nerve will carry the connection to the thoracic cage and that will control the contraction and relaxation. Here is a breathing control center that is shown. The one which shows the CO2 increase in the blood, that will give the indication to the brain. How that happens, that we are going to discuss, and how the nerve impulse from oxygen sensor will indicate oxygen decrease in the body, we are going to discuss. The centers are there actually here with the heart. These are called O2 centers, O2 sensors in the artery. Next slide, we'll discuss how this control takes place and what happened during the inspiration when the lungs expand to a critical point. So we are going to discuss in two steps how the inspiration followed by expiration. During inspiration, when lungs expand to a critical point, this is due to the stretch receptor that will get re-stimulated, and the impulse will send along that nerve. I told you this is called vagus nerve, to the expiratory center. What will happen? It then send the signal to the inhibitory impulse to the inspiratory center. Thus, inspiratory muscles will relax, expansion, expiration, and that will follow expiration. Remember, as air leaves the lungs during expiration, lungs are deflated, means they will get empty, and the stretch receptors which are no longer stimulated, inspiratory center is no longer inhibited, and a new respiration will begin. Now all these events, inspiration followed by expiration, due to the control from the pons berolia and medulla oblongata, with the help of this nerve called a vagus nerve, these events are called a Hering-Breuer reflex. I told you the thing keep on taking place involuntarily. Next, the control that we have on a rhythm of respiration, and also the one which prevent the lungs from inflating to the point of a bursting. These are the events that will take care of a lungs. Lungs will not expand to a large extent, they will not completely get empty, and this will be center in the brain. Respiratory center has connection with the cerebral cortex actually. Just now I shown you cerebrum, the one which mainly control voluntary activity of our body, the one which will have memory as well as the problem solving centers. And ultimate connection is with the cerebral hemisphere, means cerebrum. That means we can voluntarily change our pattern of breathing. So just now the breathing is involuntary in my case. If I do like this, this is voluntary, remember. Now when it comes to the voluntary, the control goes to the cerebrum. Remember, due to the voluntary change of pattern of breathing, the protection as we prevent water and irritating gases from entering into the lung. So we get a protection by this method, by doing it voluntarily. So whenever we feel bad gases that try to enter, we forcefully give out, and this is what we control voluntarily with the help of cerebral cortex. So remember, control over respiration is with no doubt pons berolia and medulla oblongata, but we can control it with the cerebrum voluntarily. Next, few points here and there we'll discuss. Next is the modified respiratory movement. Normal movement we already discussed, inspiration, expiration. Now we'll have certain respiratory movement which are little modified, which are little different, and some respiratory movement which are different from normal movement and help to express emotion or clear the airway. This is the way I clear the airway, and these are the movements are a little bit different. They are called a modified respiratory movement. Out of these, some may be reflexes that keep on happening. Reflexes we'll discuss, quick, spontaneous, and others can be initiated voluntarily. Say for example, either it could coughing or yawning. You all know coughing can be voluntarily, or the yawning that takes place involuntarily, and they are the one which are modified respiratory movement. Actually, we'll have many more movement. You can make a list of such a modified respiratory movements afterwards. Next, and then we want to discuss different volumes associated with the respiration. These are called respiratory volume. And now these are actually the lung capacity that we talked about. So a normal healthy person will have all these different figures. If at all any deviation there takes place, that is the indication of a problem in the body. So which all are there? One by one we'll discuss. First one is called tidal volume. Definition: the volume of air inspired or expired during normal breathing, and this is called a tidal volume. Remember the figures now. Approximately this is 500 ml. We measure in ml. And remember, it is in adult. We are talking about adults only. So tidal volume is the volume of air that is taken in or given out. This is called a tidal volume. So this happens automatically. I told you, whatever volume is taken, that is for tidal volume. This is 500 ml. And then we'll have two volumes. One is called inspiratory reserve volume, IRV. The volume of air that can be breathed with maximum forceful inspiration. In addition to this tidal volume, so in addition to 500 ml, we can take more air inside. And this is called inspiratory reserve volume. How much it is? 2000 to 3000 ml. This will depend upon individual with your lung capacity, with your exercise, etc. I'll show you how this is. Say for example, normal breathing took place. I can take more air inside, and this is 2000 to 300 ml. This is inspiratory reserve volume. Not to laugh, but this is important. You need to know your own body. Expiratory reserve volume. This is the volume of air expelled by maximum efforts after normal expiration, and this will be a little minimum, 1000 to 1100 ml. Again, I'll show you normal expiration, and then we can give out some amount of air. This is called expiratory reserve volume. We need this figure, keep in mind for further calculation. Next, and then we'll have a certain amount of this is called dead space, the volume of air that is present in respiratory tract but not involved in the gaseous exchange. So whenever we are taking air, giving out air, certain amount of air will remain in trachea, or it could be bronchi or bronchiole. This is the air which is not used actually, and this is called dead space. We got DS. This is 150 ml only. Remember, next one is the residual volume, the volume of air that remain in the lung beside forceful expiration, and this is called a residual volume. So remember, lungs will be never emptied 100%. That care will be taken, and this volume of air that remains is called residual volume. Again, this is 1100 to 1200 ml of air. Okay. Next and last one is the total lung capacity, the maximum amount of air that we hold after forceful inspiration, and this is called a lung capacity. This will be calculated by different things. Number one, it is 5200, 5800. I told you this will change from person to person and depends upon your lung capacity we are talking about. I'll show you. Now this is the air, how much air I have taken. This is almost 5 liters of air, remember. Okay. And last one is the vital capacity. Doctors will calculate this one, the volume of air that can be taken in and given out by utmost effort. This is called as a vital capacity. And remember, this is calculated by simple formula TV plus IRS plus ERV, and that will come around 4000 to 4600 ml. I am talking about. This is a vital capacity. Your health will be decided, your lung capacity will be decided on this vital capacity. Next, and then the remaining topic we'll discuss. Two are there. One is transportation living organism. Few terms are here and there, and then we'll have this is just to discuss with. All organism will take into consideration for transporting living organism. This is the important property of a living organism, that material needed to be transported. Organism they take up oxygen and nutrient. They will be circulated in the body for various metabolic activities. Waste will be generated, and that waste will be given out. We already discussed in excretion. To transportation in animal occur by deeper process called a diffusion and active transport. Other day we discussed diffusion is movement from higher concentration to lower. Active transport means with the expenditure of energy. And then we'll have two types of transport, intracellular and extracellular transport. Intracellular, we transport within the cell, inside the cell. Here we have movement takes place in the cytoplasm, that is called a cyclosis. This streaming movement of a cytoplasm specifically can be seen in Paramecium amoeba, root hair cell, WBC in our case. The movement is called as cyclosis. See, in this manner the cytoplasm will move inside the cell, and with this the cell transport will be carried. This is intracellular transport within the cell. While transport outside the cell from one cell to another cell, this is extracellular transport, and this will take place by different methods. Say for example, in sponges and coelenterate, the surrounding water will be circulated through body cavity, coelom. And here in sponges and the coelenterata, transport will take place. This is with the help of coelom. This is called a coelomic transport. Second, in case of a flatworm, we have parenchymal circulation. You can read more on this one, parenchymal circulation. And then in the roundworms, no blood vessels are there. Body fluid will move around the different organs due to the contraction of body wall and body muscles. Here is the transport that is taking place in different animal by different means. And then we'll conclude the topic with certain problems. Number one, the problem is called a carbon monoxide poisoning. Hemoglobin, we already discussed, have affinity for oxygen that combine with the oxygen to form oxyhemoglobin complex that will carry oxygen from lungs to up to each and every part of body. But what happens when amount of carbon monoxide is there in the air? Hemoglobin have about 250 times more affinity for carbon monoxide than the oxygen. So who will win in the competition? Carbon monoxide rather than the oxygen, remember. So in presence of carbon monoxide, hemoglobin will radially form a stable compound. Remember, oxygen forms that oxyhemoglobin, which is temporary compound or temporary complex. Here it will form stable compound. This is called carboxyhemoglobin. How many complex we discuss? Make a list. And remember, here hemoglobin will be blocked because it is a stable compound that will not break. Carbon monoxide will block the hemoglobin. Prevention of oxygen binding with the hemoglobin will be there. And that way what will happen in the body? Will have a less hemoglobin available for oxygen transport. Body will suffer with depriving the cells for oxygen, and this problem is called a carbon monoxide poisoning. I'll repeat the problem of carbon monoxide. If it is more in the air, that will combine with the hemoglobin. Hemoglobin will be wasted. Hemoglobin will not be available for the oxygen transport. And this problem is called a carbon monoxide poisoning. Question will raise in the mind, where we have more carbon monoxide? You must have an experience. If it is a auto rickshaw, you are behind the auto rickshaw, the one which is giving many more gases. You feel a little bit dizzy or you feel a little bit uneasy. This is because the exhaust gives carbon monoxide. Same is the case about the closed basement garages we are talking about, or room with the gas stove burning, and the room which is closed. Some places we do have, and such a garage where we have an engine which is running, more amount of carbon monoxide, and people suffer with carbon monoxide poisoning, remember. In this case, we need to give oxygen as well as carbon dioxide in a balanced ratio to dissociate this particular complex. But remember, problem due to carbon monoxide is called as carbon monoxide poisoning. Next. Few points related with the internal respirations are given in the book, and that we will discuss. Number one is degree of saturation of hemoglobin with the O2. Remember how hemoglobin forms the complex with the oxygen. How much degree, how much saturation takes place, we will discuss. It depends upon the oxygen tension. We call it a PPO2. Remember, here one word PP means partial pressure of oxygen. So remember, the degree of saturation will depend upon oxygen tension, that is how much oxygen is present. We call it a partial pressure of oxygen. Remember, in our body, until and up till we are admitted in the hospital, oxygen is given with the help of machine. 100% saturation will not be there. Maximum saturation will be 95 to 97. Remember, that will occur when the pressure of oxygen, partial pressure is 100 mmHg. Degree of saturation will decrease with drop in the partial pressure of oxygen, and this will result begin a dissociation of HbO2 complex. Maybe at 30 mmHg partial pressure, if at all we are in a place where oxygen deficiency is there, hardly 50% saturation will be there. Our body will take only 50% oxygen. This is what we call degree of saturation. Next, and then we have oxygen dissociation curve. It is the relation between HbO2 saturation and O2 tension, that is partial pressure of O2. This curve, we need not to go in much detail, but we want to make a multiple choice question. This curve is a sigmoid type of a curve, like this. It starts and it goes like this. This is sigmoid curve. The shift toward the right due to the increase in the H plus concentration. So we said that breaking of carbonic acid will be releasing hydrogen. That hydrogen ion concentration will go on increasing, and it increasing will result into the sigmoid curve. Increase in the partial pressure of CO2. So remember, when the cell will give out the CO2, that will increase the CO2, and that rise in the temperature, and one chemical DPG, this is studied, diphosphoglycerate. This will lower the affinity of hemoglobin to the oxygen. And remember, the curve here is a sigmoid curve. Next. And then we'll have two effects that we want to study. The effect where shift from HbO2 dissociation curve due to the change in partial pressure of CO2 in the blood. This is called a Bohr effect, remember. So more amount of a CO2 will increase in the body, dissociation will take place. Less amount of a CO2, HbO2 will not dissociate. So this is the effect. We call it a Bohr effect. Next, HbO2 function as an acid, and it might decrease the pH of a blood. This is due to the increase in the number of H plus ion. HCO3 minus charges in the H2 and CO2. This effect is called as a Halden effect. So decrease in the pH due to the increase in the H plus ion. This is called as a Halden effect. And then two important things we want to discuss. If at all this situation comes sometime or other, someone suffer with uneasy, someone suffer with some problem, someone suffer with the accident, we need to give the artificial ventilation, artificial respiration. So what is artificial ventilation? The method of inducing breathing in a person when natural respiration has ceased or it is faltered. Means natural respiration, if it is not taking place, we go for artificial ventilation or artificial respiration. Remember, if it is properly and quickly given, it will prevent the death, and death which occur due to the drowsiness or choking or suffocation or electric shock, etc. And here we maintain two things. Number one, establishing and maintaining an open airway. So with the help of that we are going to discuss, either with the help of machine or by manual method, we establish and maintain the open airway from upper respiratory tract to up to the lung, and forcefully we give inspiration and expiration. This is either by mouth to mouth respiration or maybe with the help of mechanical means like machine called ventilator. Ventilator we are going to discuss. It is a machine that support the breathing, the one which is used in the hospital, maybe at the time of surgery or maybe for treatment of serious lung diseases, a condition where normal breathing fails. The machine is called a ventilator. Remember, it is used in hospital, and I told you it will carry three important things. It will get oxygen into the lung, it will remove the carbon dioxide, even it will help a patient to the normal breathe. Machine is called a ventilator. You can have you must have seen this in hospitals. Next common disorder that we want to discuss quickly, we'll summarize 4 points that I am giving every time. Disorder, then symptoms, causes and treatment. Symptoms are the external appearance, what causes this particular disease and what could be the possible treatment. Number one is emphysema, where breakdown of alveoli, shortness of breath will take place. Maybe people go for smoking or air pollution that causes emphysema. Maybe quit smoking, avoid polluted air, and administration of oxygen could be the remedy for emphysema. Next, it is chronic bronchitis, where persons suffer with coughing or shortness of breath and causes smoking and air pollution. Maybe treatment include quit smoking, air pollution, avoid the air pollution again. Next, it could be acute bronchitis, and we many times visit a hospital for this one. Maybe inflammation of a bronchi will take place, yellow mucus that comes out during the coughing. Maybe either it could be viral or bacterial, caused by virus or bacteria, and taking antibiotics, maybe cough medicine or using vaporizer, this could be the remedy here. Maybe it could be the sinusitis, inflammation of a sinus will take place, mucus discharge will be there, again it could be viral or bacterial. Treatment will be similar, either taking antibiotic for bacterial, virus we don't have, and using vaporizer or the other kind of treatments. Next, laryngitis, it is a problem, inflammation of a larynx when the vocal cords get infected. Either we'll have the sore throat or hoarseness of a voice will be there. Maybe again it could be viral or bacterial when voice changes. Remember, it is the indication of laryngitis. Take antibiotic again, cough medicine or voice rest, or avoid smoking, those who smoke. Pneumonia could be the another problem. Inflammation of lungs will take place, that may range from mild to the very severe. Maybe a person suffer with cough and a fever, shortness of breath, chills and sweating, and chest pain will be there. Blood will be there in the mucus. Mainly pneumonia is a viral disease, and taking antibiotic or cough medicine or stay warm, this could be the for pneumonia. Many people suffer with problem of pneumonia. Next, occupational lung disorders include two silicosis and asbestosis, where inflammation, fibrosis will takes place, swelling of lungs will take place, lung damage will be there, and this is mainly because of silica and asbestosis. People working in silica factory or asbestos using factory, they suffer with this. Using protective mask, this could be the remedy. Asthma could be the next in the series. Constriction of bronchiole will take place, mucus buildup will be there in bronchiole, periodic wheezing and difficulty in breathing will be there. Person causes are allergy to the pollen grains of a plant, or it could be food or food additive, or it could be the pet animal, cats and dog. Avoid irritant, use the inhalant, this could be the possibility for asthma, and because of which we all are at home. You can have a project on this one. The diseases again of a respiratory system. Disease is called COVID-19 and caused by the virus called coronavirus. You can have a more reading on this one because of which we are at home, and problem is there at a world level. We call it as pandemic disease, the one which attack many people at one time. You can have a project on this one. Important terms that I am summarizing with, maybe you can read it out. Carotid bodies, these are chemoreceptors detect decrease in the CO2. Dyspnea is this difficulty in breathing. Maybe wheezing is a harsh whistling sound. Fibrosis is the excess fibrous connective tissue in the lung. Tuberculosis, bronchopneumonia, the acute pulmonary tuberculosis. Lung evolved 400 million years ago. This is long history. Inspired air contain 21% oxygen, that you all know. Alveolar air contain 13.1% oxygen. And two condition, hypoxia and anoxia. Hypoxia condition where body or a region of a body deprived of adequate oxygen, and the one which suffer problem. Anoxia is the hypoxia in which there is a complete deprivation of O2 in the body, that is called anoxia. Read these terms carefully. Next, last we'll have a homework again. Maybe write down modified respiratory movement, make a short note on artificial ventilation. A problem that I am giving, we feel dizzy and fainted while working with the car engine in a closed room. Give the reason and symptoms. I am asking for two only, pneumonia and asthma. That's it. Here we complete the first part of chapter respiration and circulation. Respiration we completed in 3 lectures. Thank you very much. Wish you all the best. Next chapter we are going to continue with is circulation and circulatory system, structure of heart, and many more to be discussed, that we'll discuss in the next series. Thank you. Any difficulty, you are supposed to write in the comment box. I am ready to answer the questions. Okay.